Okay, I'm doing this using rather crude equipment, so it's causing me quite a lot of grief. This is my first ever YouTube video, and so I apologise in advance for the totally amateurish way I'm going about it. Still, it should be an egalitarian platform, shouldn't it? Now, I've been inspired to make this video after having watched a very interesting piece by Dr. Chris Martenson on his channel Peak Prosperity, analysing the sound from various recordings of the recent shooting of former President Trump. I think it raises some interesting points, and so I decided to have a little go at that myself. And I got onto YouTube and I found the Fox News recording, which seems to have been taken from the vicinity of the podium, and I just took a recording of that and put it up in Audacity and had a bit of a closer look, and I think it makes for interesting viewing. Now, I have to state at the outset that I am completely unqualified to be able to discuss these topics, but I don't see that could be any sort of disqualification for it. I mean, you don't have to be a ballistics expert to be able to see curious anomalies in things, and I think there is a curious anomaly here which I want to show to you. And if you think that I am wrong, explain why I am wrong, rather than just say, well, you're not qualified to say, are you, because you've never even held a gun in your life. Well, that's perfectly true, but I've got eyes, I can see things. So let's have a little look at what we've got here. Try the home key. Here we go. This is the sound.
Take a look at what happened.
Right, that's the bit that I'm interested in. The first part of it here, with the first few shots. Now, if we zoom in on this one, you can see that there's two little parts to this. This bit, as Dr. Martenson explained, is in fact the bullet passing in the vicinity of the microphone, and that is the microphone picking up the shock wave travelling with the bullet. That is basically the sonic boom, because the bullet is travelling considerably faster than the speed of sound. So you get the noise from the sonic boom of the bullet passing the microphone. Now remember, the bullet's not going right next to the microphone. It might be a few feet away. And roughly speaking, and I'm only dealing here in sort of rough measurements, roughly speaking, the sound travels about a foot in a millisecond. I know that's not accurate, it's not quite that, but it's good enough, okay? And here is the bang that's coming from the muzzle of the rifle. So you get these two components. Now the rifle's staying in the same position, the microphone's staying in the same position. The only variable we've got is the shooter not quite being on the same trajectory each time. So there would be a little bit of variation in that time interval. Maybe there'd be a bit of variation because of the speed of the bullet. Perhaps different rounds have slightly different amounts of gunpowder or whatever the propellant is. So I can imagine that there is a bit of variation in the muzzle velocity of the rounds, and whether that's 1%, 0.1%, 10%, I have no idea. I'm not really interested. Guns are not my thing. But I would imagine that we would have to be fairly consistent. We can't account for everything with sudden variations in wind speed or air density or anything like that. So now, the time interval between the second pair is 217 milliseconds, as you can see down here at the bottom of the screen. Bear that in mind. The time interval between the first pair, and I'm just taking the peak here, and the shot 200, what's that, 221, thereabouts. And the third pair, around 213. So they're all fairly consistent. I think that can be accounted for by variations in muzzle velocity, variations in the distance from the bullet, or the bullet's trajectory from the microphone. Now you can make an estimate of the distance from the microphone to the shooter. Now I know it's not a perfectly simple calculation because the bullet is decelerating, it's slowing down as it passes through the air, and so consequently by the time it gets to the microphone it's doing noticeably less speed than it was when it left the barrel of the gun. But I think that unnecessarily complicates things for no purpose. We're looking just really here to get a qualitative rather than a quantitative interpretation of what we're looking at. And so you can see that in those three, you have a fairly consistent kick boom, tick boom, tick boom. This is the next batch. Let's zoom in on that. Now that's a bit messier, but what we have here is a tick boom. And if we zoom in on that, we can see that that tick the boom is about 211 milliseconds. So we could probably say with some confidence that that is from the same shooter. Let's look at this one to here. Well, 212 milliseconds, same shooter. What have we got in the next one then? Now this is where it gets a bit messier. Zoom in on that, that's not really what we want. What I'm interested in is this bit. So now we're getting on to the sixth shot, I think. I've miscounted, have I? So that's the tick, tick, that's the boom, that's the boom. So now, if that were a tick boom, that's 149 milliseconds. So it cannot be a tick and a boom from Mr. Crooks' gun. Just can't be. Unless he's teleported a third of the way or so closer to the podium. What's this one? Well, this is a tick and a boom. Oh, look at that, 217 milliseconds. Well, that is arguably from Crooks' gun. So we've got here a tick that hasn't got a boom. Where should the boom be? Well, around about here. Well, I don't see any bang there. And if this is a boom, where's its tick? That should be somewhere around here, I guess. There's no tick to go with it. So wouldn't it be fair to say that this tick goes with this boom, and this tick goes with this boom? Now you're free to disagree, but explain to me why I'm wrong. And if you look at those again, let's zoom back in on it, the distance between that and that, 860 milliseconds. Well, that is coming from a gun that's a lot further away. And if you work it out, it's about 500 yards. Now, I like conspiracies. And I think that this incident is going to be rife with conspiracies and fodder for hungry conspiracy theorists for years and years to come. But I think conspiracy theories are all right, because conspiracy theories only really develop where there is a vacuum of explanation. Explain to me why that are three pairs, that does not have a boom, that does not have a tick. So why am I wrong in saying that that to that is a different gun? Explain to me how that tick boom can possibly be from young Mr. Crooks' gun. Explain to me in a satisfactory way, and I'll be more than happy. But things aren't debunked just because you say they're debunked. You have to give a proper explanation for it. And with that, I shall shut down, if I can remember how.